All right, joining me now is our guest for today, Matthieu Wheeler. Matthieu is the winemaker at Cassidy Hill Vineyard in Coventry, Connecticut, and he's planning his own vineyard and winery, which will be called Wheeler Winery in nearby Hampton, Connecticut. So, hey, Matthieu, thanks for being on the show today.
Hey, Fritz, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you bet. So, Matthieu, before we jump into the planning for your new vineyard, which is super exciting, can you just tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, how you got interested in winemaking and grape growing now, and what made you decide that now's the time to start your own vineyard and winery?
So I originally started with a plan to own a restaurant, and I went to school for culinary arts, food service management, and got my MBA. But while I was managing restaurants, which late nights, holidays, everything, I really enjoyed going to wineries. So I managed restaurants up and down the East Coast, finally came back to Connecticut, which is actually where I grew up. And at my most recent restaurant, I decided it was time to switch. And in order to own a winery, I would have to learn what to do. So I reached out to some local Connecticut wineries and vineyard wineries. And one of them needed a winemaker. So I was hired there and learned everything on site. And I've been a winemaker there for the past 8 years. As time allows, I go out there and prune, and I've done some spraying and hedging and got involved with the vineyard. After working there for 8 years, it was time for my fiance and I to start looking for a house. So we were looking for some land, some acreage, as well as one that had barns, and which she would find an address, send it to me, and I would pull it up on Web Soil Survey and start making sure that it had the right drainage and everything. And then we found this beautiful property in Hampton, Connecticut, and just one step at a time, working on our dream.
You mentioned that your site is a site that you evaluated at least the soil. You looked at the soil web survey. Mostly, I'm presuming to look for good drainage there. So let's talk about your site. How would you describe your site, and why did you think that your site was a good site for grapes? First of all, how many acres is it, and what is it located near, and what's currently growing there? Let's start with those basics.
Yeah, so the total property is 23 acres. There's some livestock farms nearby. It's right on the highway. You can, down on this highway access for the future business. And the dirt is pretty stony and gravelly. As I was doing some soil samples, I was digging up a lot of rocks as well. We like to call those Connecticut potatoes. They grow the best here in Connecticut.
Okay, I'll have to remember that. That's fun.
And then, so it was a horse farm, and there's a lot of like birch trees and everything, some ledge that I've been working around.
Okay. And you said that you have one site or one area on your property that's already been cleared. Is that a hay field, or what's growing there now?
Right now it is, yeah, just general hay and weeds that we've been keeping mowed. Prior to that, it was a horse pasture when we bought it.
Okay, great. And when I look at a map at your site in Connecticut, which I know the listener can't see this, but basically what's happening on your site is you're just north of a pretty good looking major highway. So that's great for access for trucks, deliveries, the clients that are going to come, hopefully for some roadside advertising for your place. So that's always good. You're not kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And to have a site where you already have some land cleared, it really makes it easier to jump in. So had you not had a 1 acre area or more already cleared, planted to grass, ready to kind of work with, I would say there's no way you'd want to plant in 2026, because that's coming up this year here. So you would probably have to spend a whole year to remove the trees or any brush or shrubs or rocks, and then go in with a cover crop for a year, do your soil test and whatnot. But because you had this pasture already cleared, you went in and did some soil testing. I've actually got the results from your soil test. I know you've done some shallow sampling, and then you did a little bit deeper sampling. Is that correct?
Yeah, so when I did the soil samples, I dug a bunch of holes, blended in north to south rows like the vineyard's going to be planted. And I took samples at 12 inches and 24 inches so that we could see the difference of where the nutrients were.
what are you going to plant? Because you're a winemaker, Matthieu. And so we're talking about soils now. We're talking about stuff that's maybe a little bit outside your day-to-day wheelhouse. I know it can be a little overwhelming, but we'll walk you through it, get you through this. I want to know though, as a winemaker, because this is the thing, winemakers want to grow one thing because they want to make wine from it. And then the grape grower who doesn't make wine wants to grow the grape that's easier to grow because, you know, the winemaker might want the one that's hard to grow. And so you as a winemaker might say, I want Chardonnay. Well, the grape grower says, well, Chardonnay, you have to spray more. It's more susceptible to rot. How about I grow some Vidal Blanc or some Chardonnay, which doesn't rot as much? Would you like that? But now the roles have flipped because you are the one who's going to be growing these grapes. You're not just buying them. So you want something that you're going to be able to manage yourself, and not have a hard time doing. So I'm sure you've considered that. Let's talk about, first of all, what are your top 3 to 5 varieties of grapes that you've researched and you think would grow well in your site in Connecticut? What are those?
So I definitely think that great wine starts in the vineyard, and I'm pretty sure I got that from you.
I might be biased. Yeah.
Yeah. But I know I have experience with varieties like Cayuga, Chamberson, Frontenac, Vidal. There's many others that we currently grow at the winery. And I know seems like every Connecticut vineyard grows Cayuga because it's very cold hardy, disease resistant, very good yield, produces a lot. But I'm also very interested in varieties that I don't have experience with, like Arundel, Aravel, Chardonnay, some of those newer to me or new in general that are disease resistant and cold hardy.
What would be to fit your portfolio of dry wine, sweet wine, rosé, red, and white? That's a really well-rounded, kind of typical program you'd expect to walk into in a winery. What are you thinking would fill that at this time? Do you have a vision already of the 5 varieties you might want to do if it's going to be an acre of each?
So no, my vision is not fully fleshed out yet. I want to be able to offer that full variety to have the palate of every guest satisfied. But with dry white, we could do the Chardonnay. The Aravel could probably, just like Riesling, go dry to off dry. And then when I'm looking at the reds, Chamberson, I think, does really well as a dry red. Marquette does well. And for sweet reds, could be something that's either blended. Frontenac, I've had a really good sweet Frontenac wine